In a town wrapped in maple leaves and secrets, one girl's world was about to fall apart. Her mother vanished without a trace. The hay bales where they once laughed? Now silent witnesses to something darker. And the white woman who moved in next door? She knew more than she ever admitted. Mrs. Whitman whispering, "She can't be trusted," as she glances toward the Jenkins farmhouse. Amara alone in the field, finding a torn letter hidden in straw. Her hands tremble as she reads it. Amara, trust no one but yourself. Caroline Whitman is not who she seems. She searched. She fought. She uncovered a truth that had been buried for years. But the damage was done. The lie had already cost her everything. This is not just a story. It's a reckoning.
Maple Grove was the kind of town that seemed caught in time. Rows of maple trees lining the streets, their crimson leaves scattering in the gentle autumn breeze. The scent of wood smoke mingled with the sweet aroma of baked apple pies from Mrs. Delaney's bakery, a comforting perfume that wrapped the town in familiarity. It was early morning when Amara Jenkins stepped off the school bus, clutching her worn leather satchel. Her dark eyes scanned the horizon where the sleepy barns and sprawling fields met the sky, taking in the familiar patchwork of farmland and forests that stretched beyond the town's edge. The hay bales, stacked like golden sentinels near the edge of the meadows, caught the early sunlight. They were a regular fixture in Amara's world, symbols of harvest and home. Yet today the warmth of the sun did little to ease the knot tightening in her chest. The white picket fences, the freshly painted porches, they all seemed to mock the emptiness she felt inside. The crispness of the autumn air bit faintly at her cheeks, mixed with the faint scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. Amara's mother, Marie Jenkins, was supposed to be waiting for her at the corner of Maple and Elm, but the street was deserted except for the rustling leaves and the distant clatter of a tractor echoing faintly across the fields. The silence was heavy, pressing against Amara's ribcage with cold fingers. Something was wrong. Her heartbeat quickened, and the quiet seemed to deepen unnaturally, as if the town itself was holding its breath. She walked slowly toward their small weathered farmhouse. The wooden porch creaked under her feet, and the familiar scent of lavender soap and freshly brewed coffee drifted faintly from the kitchen window. But the house felt colder than usual, the shadows longer and darker in the early morning light. The hay bales outside, usually a place where Amara and her mother would sit and talk, now stood silent and untouched, their golden hues dulled by the growing unease. As she crossed the threshold, the house seemed to hold its breath. The ticking of the old grandfather clock filled the space, each second echoing the growing dread inside her. Amara's fingers trembled as she set down her bag. The faint creak of floorboards beneath her feet was the only sound besides the steady ticking. Where was her mother? The question spiraled in her mind, unanswered and heavy, like a shadow spreading across her heart. Amara Jenkins was 14, with a quiet strength that belied her years. She lived in Maple Grove with her mother, a schoolteacher known for her kindness and patience. Their life was simple but full, a mosaic of routines, laughter, and small adventures in the fields and woods surrounding their home. The rhythm of their days was punctuated by the golden light of dawn, the rustling of leaves, and the distant calls of morning birds. Amara's days were a blend of schoolwork, chores, and evenings, spent reading beneath the soft glow of a lamp, her mother's voice a soothing backdrop. Marie had raised her with stories of resilience, teaching her to find light even in the darkest moments. But beneath the calm surface, Amara carried the weight of a secret grief, the absence of her father, who had disappeared when she was just a toddler, leaving a silent hole in their lives that only time could never fully heal. The hay bales near their farmhouse were more than just farm staples. They were markers of memory. Amara and her mother would sit there after harvest, sharing stories and dreams. It was where Amara felt closest to her mother, the golden hay cradling their conversations like a warm embrace, the scent of dry straw mingling with the late summer breeze. The rough texture of the hay bales beneath her hands was a tactile comfort amid the swirling uncertainties of her young life. Yet recently the town had felt different. Whispers behind closed doors, furtive glances from neighbors, and the unsettling presence of a stranger, a white woman with sharp eyes and a tight smile, had begun to darken Amara's world. This woman, Mrs. Caroline Whitman, had moved into the old McAllister house on the outskirts of town, stirring old rumors and new fears. Her arrival was like a shadow cast over the familiar warmth of Maple Grove, an unsettling chill in the air. Despite the unease, Amara clung to her routines. School, homework, helping her mother, and the comforting ritual of climbing the hay bales at dusk remained her anchors. But the growing shadows in Maple Grove hinted that the peace she knew was fragile, and the truth waiting to surface would shake her life to its core. The rustling of leaves in the twilight seemed to whisper secrets she was only beginning to understand. The first sign that something was wrong came on a crisp October afternoon. The sky was a brilliant blue, the air sharp and brisk, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. Amara had been playing near the hay bales when she overheard a hushed conversation between Mrs. Whitman and two town elders. Their voices were low, urgent, and threaded with tension, barely above a whisper but heavy with meaning. "She can't be trusted," Mrs. Whitman whispered, her eyes darting nervously toward the old Jenkins farmhouse. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, chilling Amara's spine. Amara's heart pounded. She didn't understand everything, but the words lost, danger, and lies rang clear. The elders exchanged worried glances but said nothing more, their faces drawn and pale in the fading light. The crunch of fallen leaves underfoot seemed deafening in the sudden silence. That evening, Amara found her mother unusually quiet, staring out the window toward the fields as the sun dipped below the horizon. The sky was painted in fiery oranges and soft purples, the last light filtering through the branches of the maple trees. When Amara asked about Mrs. Whitman, Marie's smile faltered, and she changed the subject quickly, her voice tight and forced. But the unease lingered, settling like a shadow over their small kitchen, mingling with the faint aroma of simmering stew. The hay bales, once a place of comfort, now seemed ominous. Amara's fingers traced the rough edges, imagining the secrets they might conceal. The straw was coarse beneath her touch, prickling her skin as if warning her to stay away. That night she dreamed of her mother lost among the towering stacks, calling out for help that never came, her voice swallowed by the dark. The next morning, the town was abuzz with news. Mrs. Jenkins had disappeared. The police searched the fields, combed through the woods, and questioned neighbors, but no trace of Marie was found. Amara's world shattered. The white woman's lies, whispered warnings, and the empty hay bales became a puzzle she couldn't yet solve. The truth was buried beneath layers of fear and deception, and Amara was determined to unearth it before it was too late. Days passed in a blur of grief and confusion. Maple Grove's golden fields grew colder, the hay bales standing like silent witnesses to the unfolding tragedy. The sharp scent of frost mingled with the dry straw, and the crunch of dried leaves underfoot echoed Amara's restless footsteps. Amara refused to believe her mother was gone forever. She spent hours near the haystacks, searching for clues, her fingers sifting through the rough straw as if it could whisper answers. The texture was sometimes sharp, sometimes soft, as if holding hidden messages beneath the surface. One afternoon, as a chilly wind stirred the leaves and carried with it the faint scent of smoke from distant chimneys, Amara's hand brushed against something unusual, a partially hidden envelope tucked between two bales. Her breath caught as she pulled it free, the paper worn and yellowed with age, the edges frayed and delicate. The handwriting was unmistakably her mother's, elegant and purposeful, curling gracefully across the page. With trembling hands, Amara opened the letter. Inside was a message that shattered her understanding of everything she thought she knew. "Amara, if you find this, trust no one but yourself. The white woman, Caroline Whitman, is not who she seems. She lied to protect secrets that could destroy us all. Find the truth before it's too late." The words burned into Amara's mind. The letter revealed a hidden connection between Caroline Whitman and her mother's disappearance, a web of deceit stretching deep into the heart of Maple Grove. The faint scent of lavender that clung to the paper reminded Amara of her mother's presence, intensifying her resolve. This discovery ignited a fierce determination within Amara. The hay bales, once symbols of comfort, had become beacons guiding her toward a truth she could no longer ignore. With the letter clutched tightly, she resolved to confront the lies, to unravel the mystery, and to find her mother, no matter the cost. Armed with her mother's cryptic letter, Amara's resolve hardened like the frost settling on the fields at dawn. The cold air bit at her skin as she retraced her mother's last known movements, each step crunching softly on the frost-hardened earth. The hay bales, scattered like golden islands in the vast fields, became her map and her sanctuary, their rough surfaces a tactile reminder of home amid growing uncertainty. Amara visited the old McAllister house, the place Caroline Whitman had claimed as home. The house loomed, its peeling white paint and shuttered windows casting long shadows across the cracked porch. The faint creak of the old wooden steps echoed in the stillness. Peering through a cracked window, Amara glimpsed a room cluttered with papers and photographs, fragments of a life hidden beneath layers of secrecy. Dust motes floated in the stale air, illuminated by a slant of waning sunlight. At school, she asked subtle questions, listening carefully to the whispers and half-truths that swirled around Caroline Whitman. Some townsfolk eyed her suspiciously, others avoided her gaze altogether. The tension in Maple Grove was palpable, as if the entire town held its breath, waiting for the inevitable storm. The low murmur of voices in the hallways felt like a chorus of unease. Amara's nights were restless, filled with dreams of hay bales stacked like walls closing in, and a mother's voice calling out from the darkness. The rough straw seemed to press against her in the dreams, suffocating yet familiar. Yet each morning she returned to the fields, sifting through straw and memories, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that refused to yield. Her search was no longer just about finding her mother, it was about exposing the lies that had trapped them both. The white woman's shadow stretched longer each day, but Amara's courage grew stronger, fueled by hope and the fierce love that refused to be silenced. The deeper Amara delved, the more obstacles emerged. Caroline Whitman's influence in Maple Grove was subtle but strong. Town meetings were dominated by her voice, her face a mask of concern that didn't reach her cold eyes. Neighbors who once smiled now whispered warnings, urging Amara to stop digging. The atmosphere felt thick, like the heavy scent of impending rain, and every step Amara took seemed shadowed by silent threats. One evening, as Amara approached the hay bales near the old Miller farm, a sudden chill swept the air. The sky was painted with bruised purples and grays, the wind carrying a metallic tang. She heard footsteps behind her, quick and deliberate. Turning sharply, she found herself face to face with Caroline, whose smile was thin and sharp, cutting through the dusk like a blade. "Curiosity can be dangerous, Amara," Caroline said softly, her voice like ice, each word deliberate and cold. "Some truths are better left buried." Amara's heart thundered, but she stood her ground, the rough hay beneath her feet grounding her. "My mother deserves the truth," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the fear twisting inside. Caroline's eyes flashed with something unreadable before she turned and disappeared into the gathering dusk, her silhouette swallowed by the shadows. The encounter left Amara shaken but undeterred. She realized the lies ran deeper than she imagined, woven into the fabric of the town itself. The hay bales, once a place of refuge, now felt like a battlefield where secrets were fought over and buried. At school, rumors spread that Amara was unstable, that her grief was twisting her mind. Friends drifted away, afraid to be caught in the crossfire. Yet, in the quiet moments, Amara found strength in the memory of her mother's steady hands, her warm smile, and the promise hidden in the letter. The walls were closing in, but Amara was ready to break through, to shine a light into the darkness no one else dared to enter. Amara's search for truth led her to unlikely allies. Marcus, a quiet boy in her class with a passion for photography, noticed her growing isolation and offered his help. "I've seen strange things around the McAllister house," he said one afternoon, handing her a series of grainy photos he'd taken from a distance. His voice was low but earnest, the faint click of his camera still fresh in his mind. Together they pored over the images, shadowy figures meeting in the dead of night near the hay bales, whispered conversations under the flicker of lantern light. Marcus's camera captured what words could not, revealing the hidden life of Maple Grove after sunset. The photos' grainy textures seemed to pulse with mystery, each shadow telling a story. Amara also reached out to Mrs. Delaney, the bakery owner, who had known her mother for years. In the warmth of the bakery's kitchen, amidst the scent of cinnamon and fresh bread, Mrs. Delaney shared fragments of a story she, long kept secret, a feud dating back decades between the Jenkins family and the McAllisters, tangled with Caroline Whitman's sudden arrival. The soft clatter of pots and the crackle of the oven filled the space, weaving a backdrop to revelations long buried. The hay bales became a meeting point for the small group, a place where plans were whispered and courage was kindled. Amara felt the weight of loneliness lift, replaced by a fragile hope born from shared determination. These new bonds strengthened Amara's resolve, reminding her that even in the darkest times, connections could light the way The truth was still buried deep, but together they would unearth it, no matter the cost. As autumn deepened, so did Amara's understanding of herself. The search for her mother was more than a battle against lies. It was a journey into the heart of her own resilience. The crisp night air wrapped around her like a protective cloak, carrying the distant hoot of an owl and the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. One evening, standing atop the highest hay bale under a sky streaked with stars, Amara felt the weight of grief and fear pressing down on her. The cold night air bit at her cheeks, but she breathed deeply, drawing strength from the earth beneath her and the memory of her mother's unwavering love, the scent of dry straw mingling with the cool air. "I won't give up," she whispered to the wind, her voice steady despite the tears blurring her vision. The vastness of the starlit sky seemed to echo her vow, vast and infinite. The hay bales, rough and solid, seemed to hold her steady, anchors in a world swirling with uncertainty. In that moment, Amara realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to face it head-on. Her friends rallied around her, their quiet support a shield against the growing darkness. With Marcus's photographs and Mrs. Delaney's stories, Amara pieced together a clearer picture of the forces working against her. Forces that threatened not just her family, but the soul of Maple Grove. This newfound strength gave Amara a sense of purpose beyond her pain. The truth was no longer a distant hope. It was a mission, a beacon guiding her through the storm. The tension in Maple Grove reached a crescendo one chilly evening when Amara confronted Caroline Whitman near the hay bales. The air was sharp, the scent of dry straw and distant pine thick around them, mingled with the faint whisper of wind through the autumn leaves. "You lied," Amara said, her voice trembling but fierce, eyes locked on Caroline's. "You took my mother." "Why?" Caroline's eyes darkened, her composure cracking for the first time. The tight smile faltered, revealing a flicker of vulnerability beneath the cold facade. "You don't understand what's at stake," she hissed, her voice low and urgent. "This town has secrets that must stay buried." Before Amara could respond, a sudden noise, a creak of wood, a rustle in the shadows, alerted them both. Marcus appeared, camera in hand, ready to capture whatever truth emerged. His breath was visible in the chilly air, the lens focused and steady. Caroline's facade shattered. She confessed to a tangled web of deception involving old family grudges, hidden crimes, and a desperate attempt to protect Maple Grove from a scandal that would destroy it all. Marie Jenkins had discovered the truth and threatened to expose it, so Caroline had hidden her away, hoping to silence the threat. The revelation hit Amara like a blow. Her mother was alive but trapped, lost in the shadows carved by lies and fear. The hay bales, silent witnesses to years of secrets, now bore the weight of the truth. This crisis forced Amara to confront not only Caroline but the very heart of the town's darkness. The path ahead was perilous, but turning back was no longer an option. The confession spread through Maple Grove like wildfire. The town's peaceful facade cracked, revealing fractures beneath years of silence. Marie Jenkins was found, hidden in a small cabin beyond the hayfields, frightened but alive. The cabin smelled of damp wood and pine, its sparse furnishings telling stories of confinement and loneliness. Amara's relief was tempered by the knowledge of the scars left behind, not just on her mother, but on the whole community. Trust was shattered, friendships tested, and the white woman's lies exposed as poison that had nearly destroyed them all. The hay bales remained, standing tall in the fields, reminders of the past and the resilience required to face it. Amara and her mother embraced beneath their golden glow, the scent of straw mingling with tears and whispered promises. The rough texture of the hay brushed against their skin as they held on to each other tightly. Caroline Whitman faced justice, her motives tangled but her actions unforgivable. The town began the slow process of healing, acknowledging the pain that had been hidden beneath polite smiles and quiet streets. For Amara, the journey was far from over. The truth had come too late to prevent loss, but not too late to inspire change. The hay bales, once symbols of harvest and home, now stood as markers of hope and the power of courage in the face of darkness. With her mother safe but still fragile, Amara knew the final confrontation with Caroline was inevitable. The weight of past lies pressed heavily on her shoulders as she prepared, gathering evidence and allies. The golden light of dusk filtered through the maple leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground as she met Marcus near the hay bales. The hay bales, where so much had unfolded, became a secret meeting place for Amara and Marcus. Under the fading light, they planned their next move, reviewing the photographs and notes that would expose Caroline's full deception. The scent of dry straw mixed with the earthy smell of the cooling soil, grounding them amidst the turmoil. Amara's heart raced with a blend of fear and determination. The wind carried the scent of dry straw and earth, grounding her amidst the turmoil. She rehearsed what she would say, steeling herself to face the woman who had shattered her world. Mrs. Delaney's quiet wisdom echoed in her mind. Strength isn't just in fighting, but in knowing when to stand your ground. As night fell over Maple Grove, the hay bales glowed softly in the moonlight, silent witnesses to a struggle for truth and justice. Amara's resolve solidified. The final chapter was near, and she was ready. Under the silver light of a full moon, Amara stood before Caroline Whitman near the towering hay bales. The night air was thick with tension, the scent of hay sharp and alive, mingling with the faint rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. "You lied to me, to everyone," Amara said, voice steady, her eyes locked on Caroline's. "But the truth can't be hidden anymore." Caroline's eyes flickered with anger and fear, the lines of her face hardening in the moonlight. "You don't understand the sacrifices I made." "I understand enough," Amara replied. "You took my mother to protect your secrets. It ends now." The confrontation was raw, charged with years of pain and betrayal. Caroline's defenses crumbled as Amara presented the evidence, photographs, the letter, testimonies. The hay bales, bathed in moonlight, seemed to bear witness to the reckoning, their rough surfaces illuminated like ancient sentinels. In that moment, the power shifted. Caroline's lies unraveled, and Amara's courage shone through, illuminating the darkness that had threatened to consume them all. With Caroline's deception laid bare, Maple Grove began to heal. The town gathered beneath the maple trees, the golden hay bales standing as symbols of resilience and renewal. The air was filled with the scent of fresh earth and blossoming buds, the promise of spring whispering through the branches. Marie Jenkins slowly recovered, her strength returning through love and community support. Amara's bond with her mother deepened, forged in the fires of adversity and hope. Their laughter, once silenced, now echoed softly through the fields. The once silent hay bales became places of gathering and remembrance, where stories were shared and wounds tended. Amara found peace in their golden embrace, a testament to endurance and the power of truth. Caroline faced the consequences of her actions, but the town chose forgiveness as a path forward, refusing to be defined by the darkness. Amara's journey had transformed her, from a girl lost in grief to a young woman who embraced courage and resilience. The truth had come late, but it had come, carrying the promise of a new beginning. Spring arrived in Maple Grove, painting the fields with fresh green and the sweet scent of blooming flowers. The hay bales, now weathered but steadfast, stood quietly in the sunlight, a reminder of seasons past and lessons learned. Bees hummed softly among the blossoms, and the gentle rustle of new leaves filled the air. Amara and her mother walked hand in hand through the fields, the warmth of the earth beneath their feet grounding them in the present. The town was alive with renewal, neighbors rebuilding trust and friendships, their voices blending with birdsong and the murmur of streams. Amara's eyes sparkled with hope as she climbed once more onto a hay bale, the breeze lifting her hair. She looked toward the horizon, where new stories awaited, stories of healing, courage, and transformation. The scent of fresh grass and wildflowers mingled with the fading sweetness of spring. The past had tested her, the lies had wounded her, but the truth had set her free. And in the heart of Maple Grove, beneath the watchful maple trees and golden hay bales, Amara found her home again.